He was one of the nicest persons I've ever met. He's one of those guys who wouldn't hurt a fly, like everybody says. He was well respected that way, even on other teams, having played on other teams in the league. I know other players have talked and had a lot of respect for him as a player, just because he's such a gentlemanly player out there. And just talking, and everybody had a respect for him, not because he was an offensive threat or anything on the ice, just because he was such a great guy.
On the ice, he was a great leader, led by example. He was probably one of the best shot blockers I've ever seen. And you know, when he came off the ice and in the dressing room, you see all the bruises and stuff. It just, you kind of see what it took to be a leader and to be a champion like him.
You know, you walk around the dressing room and you see all the different faces in there, and you know, the one particular face that kind of stood out was Ben's. He was a little unassuming at that time when I first met him. He's you know, a soft-looking fella, and seemed to be quite quiet. And I think what you're probably going to get from a lot of people is just, you know, Ben's character is that he's kind of quiet and unassuming, very polite, a nice boy to be around. You know, outside of the rink. He's sitting around with him in the stands at different times, and you get talking. His conversations generally were pretty quiet and meek. He didn't have a lot of stuff that, you know, was really over the top, and that was the kind of personality that Ben was, which made you think as a coach, oh, what kind of player is this guy? You know, he could come across as being the same kind of player on the ice, but you know, it's totally different. And when he got on the ice in the first few times I met him, or the first few times I saw him playing, I was definitely impressed. His style of hockey was totally different than what his personality is.
I never heard a bad word about Ben Reinhardt in 5 years coaching him. From a teammate, from a fan, from an opponent, from a scout, from media, I never heard one bad word. Ben instantly grabbed your respect, and that made him the obvious leader for our team. And he really didn't have to say a lot, but I can say there were times, you know, when he had to speak up, times when he had to address a situation, when he had to intervene, and he did that. And he was as reliable a person as you'll find, and an obvious leader, and the guy you want to, you know, represent your team.
He was funny. He was quiet, but he would come out with some one-liners that would just make you cry at the dinner table. We talked quite a bit, he and I, but I have a good relationship with all the boys, so I talk quite a bit with all of them, but no, he's a great guy.
Like, he didn't have to say anything. The guy just knew, like, what had to be done. Just, like, take a look at Rhino, like, what's he doing, you know? The guys followed like, right in his footsteps.
He was a jokester, always the dry humor, but he put up the jokes for sure. I would just mention to him a few bus trips. I was new on the team, and he would break the ice with me. He sat behind me in the bus, and I wasn't too sure at the start what he was like. I heard he's a great leader, but not very vocal. So when I heard a few of his dry jokes on the bus when I first started, I wasn't too laughy or being too loud. I kind of stood back, and then when he chuckled at me and he said, "I'm joking," then it kind of broke the ice between me and him, and we've had a good bond since then, so I'd like to mention it too.
He thrived off that stuff, and for him winning, it was a huge thing, and he cherished every moment of it, and he's just a fun guy to be around.
For him to have a crack at it again and finish the way he did, you know what I mean? I don't know how his emotions inside were, but I know how excited that I would be and everything. And Ben, you know, Ben is this character that he carries everything like a little inside, but he shows emotion. Like, you know, you can look at some of the pictures of him holding that cup and that kind of stuff, you know. I can just imagine what it must have really felt like inside of him, so.
A lot of the guys in the room, once we made it to the RBC, we really started concentrating on getting that for Ben, and it was in the back of our minds. Obviously, you got that competitive spirit as an athlete. To win, obviously, everybody wants to win, but we had that as a team, as a whole. I know a lot of the guys, we all wanted to win it for Ben.
It's going to mean a lot, and he's a pretty emotional guy, and I would be surprised if a tear rolls down his face, but he's he's a proud Lumber King and a well-deserved of this night.
I think Ben Reinhardt will take it all in stride and everything else out there and that. And I think you might see some kind of emotion out of him, which I would really appreciate if he would do that. Because, you know what I mean, there's this quiet, easygoing guy, but like we all said, he has one-liners and everything. But I think it'll mean a lot to him.
He's a pretty reserved guy, and I'm anxious to see how he handles this. And he's not one for personal accomplishments or recognition. He's all about team, and I think that was obvious in how he played and how he carried himself, and then to see the results as a product of that. He'll be anxious to see it. I mean, this is not something that he expects. Not even really something I could say that he wants. But I think as a whole, this community and the people that have followed his time and his career spent here in Pembroke know that it's well deserved. Very, very difficult to match the accomplishments. But the accomplishments aside, I think what really makes this night special, and really makes this something that needs to happen, is that the type of person, the type of character that comes with Ben Reinhardt, the player, really, truly is unmatched. And that's what makes this night so special, and that's what I'll remember Ben for.